All right, back again, ready to get going for some more. So, the goals for today's class, we're going to review the concept of intervals real quick. I want to make sure we're really getting good on that. We're going to review scales. We're going to review the major scale pattern just for today. We're not going to get much into minor, maybe a little bit, but more major, and I'll talk about that later. And today, we're going to introduce chords and chord construction. Okay. Once again, intervals. The ones we're going to focus on for today are thirds and fifths. These are the two big ones that we're going to focus on for today's lesson. Okay, remember, two types of scales: major, minor, happy, sad. Little oversimplification, but that's basically the gist of it. Okay, remember the pattern: whole step, half step, whole step, half step. That's major. Okay, very important that we keep that in mind. As long as you have that pattern, you can make any scale in the world. All right, now let me do this. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry there. I had to fix that so you guys could see this. Okay, chords. Chords are a group of typically three or more notes sounded together as a basis of harmony. Okay, chords are going to be the, I like to call, the framework of your harmony. Okay, it's what makes songs full, is having these chords. Now, the reason we've been going over intervals and scales is because it's very important to understand your intervals, and it's very important to understand your scales, because if you don't know either or, you're going to have a very difficult time constructing correct chords. Okay, because um there is a system to the madness of how to create these chords. Okay, so this type of chord is the one you're going to see a most of. We call this a triad because it's due to having three notes. And most chords are always going to start with just the triad. You could always add more notes, but the triad is the base. It is the framework for all the other chords. Okay, now here's why learning scales are so important. Very, 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 very important. Okay. First, the chords are represented by Roman numerals and are determined by the key. Okay. So, what does that mean? It means that we're right now we've got a C major scale: C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And if we went on, it would be C, but we're stopping here at the B, at the 7. But if you look up here, they've got all these symbols and they got all these symbols down here. What do they mean? Well, C major. Okay, if you see a M-A-J, that means major. If you see a capital I, that means major. So how many major chords do we have? We have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, the min, M-I-N, means it's a minor chord by lowercase I. So two I's there, three I's there, and a lowercase v and a lowercase I right there. Same thing. You see the uppercase for the major. Okay. And then the last one is a dim. This means diminished. Okay. We haven't really talked about diminished intervals. But we'll get into that. But the one at the end is a diminished interval. So what does that mean? Okay, brace yourself. I'm going to try to explain this as best as possible. Okay. This is the order of chords that you will use for the C major scale, or the key of C. Okay. That's one of the reasons why we learn scales. To learn scales, you know keys, and we'll get into key signatures and what those mean a little bit later. So each of these notes, each of these scale, excuse me, each of these chords begins on the root note, which is the first note. The bottom note is called the root. Okay. Now, for C major, this is a C major scale. So C, E, G. You play those together, you get a major sound. Now, if we go to D, now for the next one, we're going to act like we were in the key of D major. If this was D major, this would be D, F sharp, A, but it's not. is in the key of C, and in C there is no there is no F sharp. So we have to use F, which changes the chord sound to minor. So D, F, A. Same thing with E. You've got E, G, B. If this was E major, this would be a G sharp. Okay? F major, F, C, excuse me, F, A, C. Even I make mistakes. It's okay. We're all human. F, A, C. Now in F major, these were all correct. So this would be a major chord. G major, G, B, D. In G major, these are all correct. Okay? A minor, A, C, E. This would be C sharp if this was going to be A major, but because there's no C sharp and C major, this is going to be a regular C. So this turns it into a minor scale. And then with diminished, this would be normally B, D sharp, F sharp. But because we don't have a D sharp and we don't have an F sharp, we've just in C major, you just have a D and an F. This is what they call a diminished scale. Or a diminished chord, okay? I know that's a lot to sink in. All you need to worry about is listen to the scale. Does it sound happy? I mean, not the scale. Listen to the chord. Does it sound happy or does it sound sad? Okay, remember, if it's major, it's going to sound happy. If it's minor, it's going to sound sad. And if it's diminished, it's going to sound really sad. It's going to sound like, ugh, okay? I'm just going to let you know. So I'm going to play each of them. This is major. This is minor. And this is diminished. Okay, so here's how I'm going to make this easy for you. You don't need to think about each of these scales, okay? That's just a way for you to understand why it sounds the way it does. All you need to do is, once again, figure out this pattern. For a major scale, this is the pattern we follow. So remember, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished. You just follow this pattern and just use the notes that are used in that scale. As long as you do that, you'll have no problems. Okay? Okay. All right. We are back here at Tone Savvy. As always, make sure you have your username that I provided, your password that I provided, and the teacher code right here. Log in. And for this lesson, we are going to be working on chord building. Okay? Now, for chord building, remember I left that here, and then you've got the root notes here. Now, I may change this because this may be a little difficult, but what I wanted to do is at least show you how this works. Now, if you know these scales, you will be able to construct any triad that you need, okay? All right, so we're going to go to Start Quiz. They want me to make an E major triad. So for an E major triad, I'm going to start with E. The next one is going to be G sharp and then B. And you get the right triad. G major triad. Oh, that's easy. We don't need any sharps. G, B, D. Okay. C major. Start here. And that's basically what you're going to do. One more. We'll do A major. A. Now we need C sharp because there's a C sharp in A major. Then you go back, E. This is why it is so super duper duper important to know your scales. When you know your scales, you know what notes belong where, okay? So use that piano diagram I'm putting in there with you guys. Use that to help you figure out these chords, okay? All right, now I'm going to end this. I don't want to do this no more. So I got to figure out, I'm going to hit stop quiz. Yeah, I did terrible. So we're going to go back to assignment sets. Now, here's one thing I would recommend that you guys try. Try doing major scale building level 2. This has more scales that you can work on, has all of these scales. If you can do all of these scales pretty well, then you'll do pretty well on building those chords, okay? So if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me, and I'd be happy to see if I can break it down for you a little bit more. All right.